Good morning. We're here at the 2021 Save the Lake event. We're so excited. The Kiwanis and the Gimli Yacht Club are so excited to host this third annual fundraiser to save the lake. And of course, all proceeds, Paul, go to the Lake Winnipeg Foundation and of course the Lake Winnipeg Research Consortium that owns and operates the Namao.
That's right, and they've been good to us in terms of offering goods and services. A couple of trips for the Namao are on our live auction.
Amazing trips. I've been on one and it's fantastic.
That's for sure. It's an adventure for our clubs together in Save the Lake, and that because of COVID and various restrictions, we've gotten creative and websites have been developed, and everything that we're doing is online, ordered online. In terms of our fish dinner that's going to be served between 11 and 3 o'clock, and you better get in there before they're all sold out. We only have a limited supply. Also, the live auction online that we have is
going to end at 3 o'clock.
It's going to end at 3 o'clock.
So
Thanks for reminding me, Charlie. We need to get you in there because there's great stuff, and you can't do better than getting some of these auction items. We have golf. We have stays at two hotels and resorts. One in Gimli, one at Hecla. We have
chartering a boat.
We've got golf prizes, and it's
clothing prizes. It's over 25 items, and it really is unprecedented. And we're really excited. And what's coming up next is we're going to do our science presentations that we've done, and this year we've got Dr. Alexis Canoe from the Lake Winnipeg Foundation and Dr. Karen Scott from the Lake Winnipeg Research Consortium giving us a little bit of background on the lake itself.
On behalf of the great people of Selkirk and Lake Eastman, and on behalf of all my parliamentary colleagues, I just want to bring greetings to everyone that's participating virtually in the Save the Lake fundraiser. I want to thank again the Gimli Kiwanis Club, the Gimli Yacht Club, for raising these dollars to go towards the Lake Winnipeg Foundation and the Lake Winnipeg Research Consortium. The work that you're doing to save our beautiful lake and to make sure that it's there for future generations is admirable, and one that I've been supporting through my work here in Ottawa for many, many years. I know that working together, but especially at the community level, finding those advocates, those that are out there that are volunteering, and those philanthropists who are so generously donating their time and resources to saving beautiful Lake Winnipeg. It is part of our life, it's a part of our culture here in the Interlake, and of course it is more than just our region of Selkirk and Lake Eastman. It is by far one of the most beautiful and important lakes in the province of Manitoba, the Prairie region, and of course the Northern Great Plains as well. It supports our economy, it supports our ecosystems, it has an amazing fishery, and I know that each and every one of us want to do everything that we can to ensure that Lake Winnipeg is healthy, that it rebounds, and that at the end of the day, we are ensuring that it's there for future generations, for our children and our grandchildren. So again, on behalf of everyone here in Selkirk Interlake Eastman, and on behalf of my parliamentary colleagues here on the Hill, thank you for attending, thank you to the volunteers that have organized it, and thank you especially to the Gimli Yacht Club and the Gimli Kiwanis Club for making this event possible.
Hi everyone, my name is Lynn Greenberg, Mayor of the Rural Municipality of Gimli. I'd like to invite everyone to the annual fish fry for the Save the Lake project. This endeavor is a joint effort between the Gimli Kiwanis Club and the Gimli Yacht Club. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm here to introduce Dr. Karen Scott. Karen is the Chief Scientist of the Lake Winnipeg Research Consortium, and she'll be our first speaker today. Karen is a PhD. She did all of her undergraduate work at the experimental lakes in northwestern Ontario. She is an avid sailor, environmentalist, person with tremendous passion for Lake Winnipeg. I'm really excited that Karen is going to be speaking to us today about the health of the lake and what we can do to make Lake Winnipeg a better lake.
Lake Winnipeg is among the largest lakes in the world and is changing due largely to human activities. In order to understand, mitigate, and manage these changes, information is needed. Motor vessel Nemeo is owned and operated by the Lake Winnipeg Research Consortium and is used to carry out multidisciplinary research and monitoring on Lake Winnipeg. When not working, the Nemeo is harbored in Gimli, Manitoba. Hi, my name is Karen Scott and I coordinate the science program on Lake Winnipeg. This presentation is a glimpse into the Lake Winnipeg Research Consortium, who we are, what we do, and why we do it. Welcome aboard the motor vessel Nemeo. A partial definition of consortium is a group formed to undertake an enterprise beyond the resources of any one member. Before I talk about who is part of the Lake Winnipeg Research Consortium, I'd like to take a step back in time to 1997, when two somewhat serendipitous events occurred. The first event was the flood of the century of the Red River. Now this is of interest because the Red River flows into Lake Winnipeg, and the scientific community had concerns about what those floodwaters were carrying into the lake. The second event in 1997 was the Aids to Navigation program was privatized. The Nemeo is key to this program because she was originally built as a buoy tender used by the Canadian Coast Guard to deploy and retrieve navigational buoys on Lake Winnipeg. So when the program was privatized, the Nemeo was no longer needed and was put up for disposal as a Crown asset. So 1997 was key. We had an enormous flood flowing into Lake Winnipeg, a retired ship, and a vision shared by a number of dedicated individuals. And those were the ingredients to form the Lake Winnipeg Research Consortium in 1998, and we became a registered charity in 2008. Back to the members of the Lake Winnipeg Research Consortium. We have 6 classes of membership: contributing, research, participating, general, life, and honorary. Anyone can become a member. You don't have to contribute funding or be doing research on the lake. We also have 3 officers of the corporation appointed by the board of directors. The managing director is Al Christofferson. Programs, science and education is me, Karen Scott. And superintendent of marine operations, everything ship related, is taken care of by Ryan Johnson. The Nemeo requires a crew of 9 just to run the ship. And then we have a second crew on board, and that's the science crew, typically made up of our research members. And finally, there's a board of 9 directors, which provides financial, governance, and strategic oversight to the organization. This presentation is focusing on the activities of the research members of the consortium. The Lake Winnipeg Research Consortium facilitates multidisciplinary research and monitoring, or science, on Lake Winnipeg. What exactly does that mean? You can think of multidisciplinary science as whole ecosystem science, looking at the big picture. For example, the biological components of the system are the food web. And as the name suggests, it's all about food. Who is eating whom, from nutrients, which are consumed by algae at the base of the food web, all the way up to the top predators like pickerel, and what those interactions are like and how they're changing, for instance, due to invasive species. Another component of the system is the chemical component, natural water chemistry, but also contaminants introduced by humans, such as pharmaceuticals, pesticides, mercury, microplastics, estrogen-like compounds. Many of these enter water bodies. and the physical component of this system. That includes currents, how water moves, mixing, temperature, oxygen, how far light penetrates into the water column. It's not just at the surface of the lake. The surface and bottom waters can be very different. And the sediment is a whole other world, especially at the interface between the sediment and the water. Very dynamic place. A whole ecosystem includes the whole lake, which in Lake Winnipeg's case is enormous. In terms of surface area, not so much in terms of water volume, because it's a very shallow lake. It is a regulated system for hydroelectric energy generation. It's very dynamic and heterogeneous. This is a satellite image taken in the spring that shows just how different this lake is from north to south. There's ice still on the lake. You can see the brown water on the right is high dissolved organic carbon coming in from the boreal forest. And you can see the influence of the Red River coming in the south end of the lake. Very dynamic system, very heterogeneous. And that's why we need a fairly extensive station network. We have 50 offshore stations, 12 nearshore stations in blue, 3 outflow stations at Warren Landing and 2 Mile Channel. And each of these stations are visited three times a year, spring, summer, and fall. We also deploy and retrieve the ODAS weather buoys to get the marine forecasts. And we have a series of moorings on the lake, which I'll discuss later. Many of the stations are too shallow or dangerous to access, and we launch a workboat to sample at those stations. So obviously no one individual has the intellectual capacity to do this alone, and no one agency has the capacity, financial or otherwise. And that's where the science team comes in. We facilitate for the research members of the consortium. We have the on-lake program, and we also have a winter program where we convene the science team. The most prominent science members on the lake are Environment and Climate Change Canada and the province of Manitoba, and also Fisheries and Oceans Canada. Universities tend more towards short-term research projects. They add to our knowledge, but end once the project funding dries up and the graduate student moves on. To give you a feel of what some of this work looks like, I've put together some slides that include some of the equipment depicted in this image that we deploy on a routine basis from the ship. So you'll have a little break from me talking before we wrap up with why we do this. Why do multidisciplinary research? One reason is that Lake Winnipeg is changing, and it will continue to change. With climate change, the introduction of exotic species, and ongoing pressures from human activities. Some changes are visible and obvious, like algal blooms or eutrophication, which is caused by excess nutrients entering the lake. And zebra mussels, also very visible as they foul our beaches. Other changes are not visible, like oxygen, temperature, changes in the food web, microplastics. You can't see them, and they need to be measured and quantified in order to identify them and to establish trends. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Related to a changing Lake Winnipeg is that everything is connected and in very complex ways. For instance, let's pretend we have a scenario where a tremendous amount of effort goes into reducing nutrients from entering the lake. But the lake doesn't seem to respond in a favorable way. Maybe it even gets worse. Why? Well, you can't answer that question without looking at other processes that influence the growth of algae, such as light, temperature, and mixing, as well as factors influencing nutrient cycling within the lake, such as zebra mussels or phosphorus from the sediment. Which brings us to the last reason in support of multidisciplinary science. Data informs management decision-making, or at least it should. Sometimes politics trumps science, but ideally, working with the best available information is preferable. For Lake Winnipeg, we didn't have a lot of information on the whole system until recently. You can see there, it wasn't until the Lake Winnipeg Research Consortium started their surveys in earnest that we really started to acquire long-term data sets on Lake Winnipeg. So we're finally able to work with information instead of guessing. And that's crucial for understanding change and managing that change over the long term. We can't go back to a pristine state, but we can manage change going forward, making decisions that sustain the ecosystem instead of making decisions that cause further deterioration. Models are being developed using those long-term data sets, and they will help predict the lake's response to changes in nutrient loading, and they'll also help predict the lake's response to the effects of zebra mussels on nutrient recycling. Lake Winnipeg is changing and will continue to do so. Everything is connected in very complex ways, and data informs management decision-making from water quality to the fishery. Before I leave you, I'd like to say a few words about our education program. It might be of interest to educators and students. We have a university-level scholarship named after the late Dr. Herb Lawler, founding director of the consortium. We also have a prize for younger students offered through the Manitoba School Science Symposium. This one's nice because you get a cash prize and you get to come out on the ship with our science team. And we also have the Lake Ecology Field Program. This is a hands-on program where you come on board the Nemeo and you sample and do analyses on board. So it's a fun way to learn about Lake Winnipeg. I hope this presentation has sparked an interest in what we do and what you can do to minimize your impact on Lake Winnipeg. If you'd like more information about the science or our programs, there's lots to be found on our website. Thanks for listening.
We'd like to introduce our next presenter, Dr. Alexis Canoe, who is a specialist in environmental studies, and also mainly she's the executive director of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation, of which is one of the recipients of the funds that we raise for this event that we're having here this weekend. And Alexis has been a supporter of ours in this endeavor right from the beginning 3 years ago, and we're really glad to have her back.
Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity to meet with you this morning and share the work of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation. My name is Alexis Canoe, and I'm the Executive Director of LWF. Despite all the challenges that we've all experienced over the past year and a half, it's always nice to have these opportunities to connect, even if only virtually, and to start off our summer in this way. I'll begin by acknowledging that Lake Winnipeg is part of the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Dakota, and the Métis peoples. This is a lake that has long been cared for by the people living on its shores. The Lake Winnipeg Foundation was founded in 2005 on the west side of the lake in the village of Donater. From the very beginning, we have brought together science and action to create solutions for Lake Winnipeg. And if science provides the roadmap towards these solutions, it is grassroots citizen engagement that really drives them forward. It has been undoubtedly a tough year for community action. We had to put aside many of our usual approaches. We certainly weren't gathering in groups like we have in past years when this photo was taken. But the community spirit was just as strong, and the creativity and the commitment of our staff, our board, our members, and our volunteers was truly inspiring. Our team has been rolling with the punches, adapting to change, and finding new opportunities for impact along the way. One thing that remains certain, despite all the changes and adaptations of the past year, is the focus of our work. Our work continues to be guided by the Lake Winnipeg Health Plan, a set of 8 evidence-based actions to reduce phosphorus loading, the root cause of harmful algal blooms on Lake Winnipeg. The Lake Winnipeg Health Plan is itself guided by 50 years of research from the experimental lakes area in northwestern Ontario. On your screen is a world-famous photo from an iconic experiment on Lake 226 at ELA. Researchers separated this lake into 2 halves using an impermeable curtain, adding different nutrients to each half. And it was only the half that received phosphorus which developed algal blooms. You can see those green blooms in the bottom half of the photo. Subsequent research at ELA demonstrated that these algal blooms could be effectively controlled by reducing phosphorus inputs to freshwater lakes. A focus on phosphorus is being used to improve the health of lakes across the country, including Lake Erie and, closer to home, Lake of the Woods. Here in Manitoba, however, our provincial government continues to divert energy and effort towards nitrogen reduction, despite all of the evidence that points to phosphorus as the culprit and to phosphorus reduction as the most cost-effective solution for our lake. We've been working hard over the past year and a half to ensure that there is a focus on phosphorus in ongoing efforts to upgrade Winnipeg's North End Water Pollution Control Centre. Phosphorus reduction can be achieved quickly and cost-effectively if we start making the right decisions. We've seen some great progress on this file over the past year as a result of our continued efforts and the strong voices of our members. As environmental regulator, the province of Manitoba has prioritized interim phosphorus reduction. This is the first public recognition they've given that phosphorus needs to be dealt with most urgently at the treatment plant, particularly because of ongoing delays in completing the full plant upgrade. The interim phosphorus solution that LWF and our partners proposed in early 2019 was further evaluated by the city last year and demonstrated to be an effective means to reduce the plant's environmental impact. So LWF is leading the charge in bringing workable, feasible solutions to the table, and governments are now following along. Most recently, Winnipeg City Council approved $10 million in funding for interim phosphorus reduction, and the province of Manitoba, in their role as environmental regulator, have provided their official approval for the work. So these are great steps forward for the North End treatment plant, but we are still not done. All the official approvals are in place, but now we need to monitor how quickly and how effectively the actual work to reduce phosphorus is implemented at the plant. LWF remains very concerned about the timelines and the targets that have been shared for this work. City Council originally committed to implement interim phosphorus reduction within 14 months of finding a viable solution. They are now not sticking to their own timeline. The interim solution, which should be in place by April of 2022, is not projected to be completed until late 2023. We have also been told that the interim solution will not be able to achieve the phosphorus limit set by the province for the North End treatment plant. This is because phosphorus reduction requires biosolids capacity, and there currently isn't enough capacity in the plant's aging infrastructure. Well, luckily, we're about to build a brand new biosolids facility, which could be used to solve this exact problem. Yet, astonishingly, neither the city nor the province have put forward any concrete plans to solve the phosphorus reduction problem by ensuring that the new biosolids facility is designed to accommodate full phosphorus removal. Based on the city and the province's most recently published plan, we are still over a decade away from meeting the North End treatment plant's phosphorus limit. And this is a limit that was originally set way back in 2005. So our work continues. LWF is calling on the province to enforce the following. Firstly, to ensure that the interim solution is up and running by April of 2022 with measurable reductions in the North End treatment plant's phosphorus releases. And secondly, to ensure that the provincial phosphorus limit set in 2005 is met as soon as the new biosolids facility is completed, by proactively ensuring that phosphorus reduction is integrated into this brand new facility's design from the very beginning. Unfortunately, from what we've seen from both the city and provincial bureaucrats over the past year, there will be no progress on either of these two opportunities to reduce phosphorus without a strong call to action from the public. And we've been successful before. Back in 2019, it was public outcry in response to continued inaction and horrible blooms on the lake that led to the province to finally declare that the city was actually out of compliance with its own operating license. Now, 2 years later, the public needs to remind the province to do something about ongoing non-compliance at the North End treatment plant. It's time for the province to stop asking the city what it can do and to start telling them what they have to do in order to protect Lake Winnipeg. Another ongoing focus of our work in 2020 was the Lake Winnipeg Community-Based Monitoring Network. This citizen science network is providing important data to improve Lake Winnipeg water quality by identifying phosphorus hotspots, the areas that we need to target to reduce phosphorus loading to Lake Winnipeg. We were just getting ready to launch our 2020 field season when the pandemic hit Manitoba last spring. Thanks to the amazing dedication and the considerable effort of our staff team, our science advisors, and our dedicated volunteers, we completely rejigged our sampling plans with two goals in mind. Firstly, the safe participation of all of our volunteers and partners. And secondly, ensuring data continuity at key water sampling sites where we've been working since 2016. Thanks to the proactive effort of our teams and the incredible commitment of our volunteers, we managed to collect over 1,000 samples in 2020. And this was at a time when many agency water monitoring programs were essentially closed down. So our data will be filling an important data gap. Unfortunately, the pandemic is still delaying lab analysis of our 2020 data, but we're excited to share the results as soon as it's safe to have our samples analyzed. And now we're back in full swing for the 2021 field season. And it's clear that the community-based monitoring network is bouncing back from the scaled back activities of 2020. This graph shows the number of flow monitored sites that we've sampled over the last 5 years. Flow monitored sites are important because they provide us with both phosphorus data and water flow data. And we need both of these data sets to calculate phosphorus exports and generate hotspot maps like the one on the right. These maps help us share the network's findings with policymakers and community partners alike to promote action. So we're excited to report that we'll have phosphorus exports for more sites than ever in 2021. This pandemic hasn't stopped the Lake Winnipeg Community-Based Monitoring Network. While we continue to collect data to build this long-term data set, we're also very committed to making sure that the information that we're generating is getting into the right hands to make a difference. We know that more data isn't always better, if it's not being used to address community concerns and solve water problems. To this end, we're sharing LWCBMN identified hotspots with provincial and federal officials. We see a particular opportunity to use this data to target government funding to phosphorus hotspots, where efforts to reduce phosphorus loading will make a measurable difference for the lake. To learn more about this work, you can find a copy of our most recent report, Realizing the Full Potential of Community-Based Monitoring, on our website. The final action of the Lake Winnipeg Health Plan is taking responsibility, which is all about our individual and collective actions as lake lovers. And this action was just as busy last year. It was a year like no other. As I've said before, we've had to adapt and change course and rethink old approaches and generate new ideas. But throughout the pandemic, it's been clear that the lake is just important as it's always been. And the commitment of our members is just as strong. In 2020, we launched a brand new virtual education program to safely continue our work to build the next generation of water stewards. Virtual education tools are creating whole new possibilities for water education and water science. Classrooms in Minot, North Dakota can now connect with classrooms in Winnipeg to share ideas and data to improve water quality. Government experts in Ottawa can speak to high school students in Manitoba to strengthen their understanding of water policy and decision-making. And Indigenous elders in Northern Manitoba can share their teachings with community members from around the province. These are all really exciting. And of course, we can't wait until we can meet face-to-face again and share these opportunities together. But in the meantime, we'll continue to build these important connections for our lake. Now that this school year is wrapping up, we're looking forward to another busy summer with safe events and campaigns to bring lake lovers together and to celebrate the lake. Last month, on May 20th, in collaboration with Joanna Brierly Jewelry Design, we launched an exclusive collection of Lucky Stone jewelry for Lake Winnipeg. You can purchase these pieces online through Joanna's website for the rest of the year. On July 2nd, we'll be launching Bid for Lake Winnipeg, which is an online art auction returning for its second year, featuring the work of local makers celebrating the lake. On August 6th, our newest event, Bike to the Beach, returns, building on the success of the 2020 Founders Ride. And on August 8th, the Victoria Beach and District Walk for Water is back as well. Now this year, of course, we're keeping a close eye on public health requirements to make sure that we're keeping everyone safe with these events. And you should check our website for updates as the event date approaches. As we head into our second pandemic summer, it is the power of citizen-driven efforts for Lake Winnipeg that continues to give me hope and keep me moving forward. LWF members and supporters are dedicated, passionate people committed to working together for change. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for all the efforts that you've made so far for the lake. I hope you will use your voice to continue speaking up. I hope you will consider renewing your LWF membership or becoming a new member. Learn more about our advocacy efforts. Ask questions, share information with your friends and your family and your neighbors. Get in touch with us if you want to know more. We're happy to help. For all of us, it is the joy of a day at the lake that keeps us moving forward. And it is our desire to ensure that our kids and grandkids get to feel that joy too. Thank you very much. I can't wait to see you again at the lake.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Stanicky, and my associate here, Andrew Meyer. We are both on the committee for Save the Lake 2021. And today I would like to introduce you to three gentlemen that have decades and decades of history and stories and data on Lake Winnipeg that most people have not heard before. I'm going to introduce the three gentlemen now. Mr. Bill Barlow, Mr. Robert Christensen, Mr. Chris Christensen, and now I'm going to ask Chris who's never at a loss for words, to say something about an intro of these three gentlemen.
Oh, I'm at a loss for words now. A lot of time was spent with these two gentlemen here, my father Robert T. Christensen and William Barlow on the Manitoba Stewardship Board, doing a lot of behind the scenes work on educating people and making us all realize a lot of the problems that we have on Lake Winnipeg. And they work closely with Dwight Williamson and also with Mr. Christofferson.
Yeah.
So I think that at that time they were labeled the Three Amigos, because wherever they went, they pulled these three guys out and they did their spiel in their presentation. So there's an awful lot of knowledge and storytelling. My dad's, Robert T., has been a commercial fisherman his whole life, and I think you guys spent at least, what, 6.5 years?
6.5.
6.5
Yeah. On that study. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's an awful lot of history right here, including, I did a little research on the Kiwanis Club, and I realized it's 106th anniversary this year. It was formed in 1915 in Detroit, Michigan. And Kiwanis was a native word, but I can't quite remember the definition right now. Paul, do you? Because
It's to do with
we trade.
well, I'd like to say that, and actually it probably was a lot to do with that. But it evolved, connected with water and forests, and generally working with helping out as many people as we could.
I'd say the long and short of it is a wonderful brotherhood of people who wanted to do things for the community. And I think over all this time, with this Save the Lake and the fish fry, we're going to show that we're all part of the lake and we're all connected. But also, this is the 130th anniversary of the Christensen fish family. So we're looking pretty good for 130 years, eh, Dad? 1891 to 2021. So I had to throw that in there. But without saying too much about the lake, I'll just maybe say it's probably something that we don't think too much about and we take for granted. Things that we should be care more about, but it's the last thing we really think about. And that's how, me personally, I wouldn't recognize myself without Lake Winnipeg. It's been part of me and my DNA since day one. I can't imagine a world without it. The long and short of it all is that whatever we do to the land, we do to our watershed. And I think that with Bill here and this museum and my father's education and history and knowledge of Lake Winnipeg, educating people and telling people as much as we can of the history of Lake Winnipeg. I mean, I wouldn't even imagine what my great-grandfather would say today of what's happened in a short period of time for Lake Winnipeg. It's always in flux, it's always changed. I think of late we've seen the zebra mussels, how much they've changed Lake Winnipeg. So without saying too much on Lake Winnipeg, maybe I'll pass it on to these two better storytellers.
We've been around the family's been around for 130 years. And with that, I had a book with me, another book that covered an awful lot of this stuff, what is actually going on. When Barlow here became chairman of the stewardship board, which we did 6.5 years on, a lot of men there, honest men, Ed Schreier was one, I can name on Williams, all down the line. They all spit their guts out, trying to tell the stories of what is wrong with Lake Winnipeg and how we could fix it. Now, all this work that was done, a fantastic job done by Bill as the chairman of this. And I don't want to go into our history of our family, because my grandfather 100 years ago would have been at Spider Island fishing on a sailboat till the middle of October, when he had to try to get the sails up because they were frozen. If you would have come into Gimli here at that time, you would have found all the women at home and the kids. but all the men were out fishing, trying to make a living for the next year. That's what Gimli was. And that's what's in the book where I was carrying, and how important Gimli and the harbor and what we are trying to say is people do not understand that you can go and piss into Lake Winnipeg, it won't hurt it. But you can't take 1 million people and do it in the same spot. We have tried everything through Bill and through what he did and what we all did together to try to save Lake Winnipeg. Is what we're having this fish fry and everything for, and how do we get through to the people?
Well, Robert T., it's, you know, we certainly did an effective way that that involves the whole watershed, and that's, you know, that's part of the story. We have a Lake Winnipeg watershed that stretches from the Rocky Mountains almost to Lake Superior, parts of 4 provinces and 4 states. And that's the biggest challenge in terms of telling that story. But I'm really happy to be here with and to support and in support of the Kiwanis Save the Lake initiative. Very important part of telling the story. And you know, as I was saying earlier on here to Chris, is that you can read you can write all the reports about the state of the lake, and you can make all the policy about the state of the lake. But unless that everyone in the watershed hears the real story and accepts the collective responsibility we all have towards all of those human practices that affect the lake, then saving the lake becomes problematic. So I just would, here we are, we're also here in the Lake Winnipeg Visitor Center, which has just begun a new exhibit that has a 32-foot by 7-foot mural starting to tell the story of all the things that we're doing out in the watershed and how those things impact the lake. And that is just in development and is a part of the story, a part of the storytelling that we all have to embrace. The Kiwanis Club and all of us here in the waterfront of Gimli, that story that we have to tell.
Gentlemen, I can't imagine being here 130 years ago. My grandparents came from Eastern Europe around that time as well, and I heard just stories that you can't imagine, and I take that as being very much as what happened here. But given that this didn't happen overnight, with the mussels and how people are mistreating the lake and anything connected with the lake, in some small way, it's what can we do, or what would you even think about that people could do? It seems like you've got this elephant. You can't eat it in one bite. So how many little chunks, or what kind of little chunks can you use to make this better?
In our report, we came up with 135 recommendations as to how we can slow the flow of nutrients, particularly phosphorus and nitrogen, from the river systems into the lake. You know, we have three major rivers coming into Lake Winnipeg. The Winnipeg River across on the east side that brings in the greatest flow, the Saskatchewan River, which brings in the second highest flow, the Red River, which brings in the least flow of the three, but by far brings in the highest nutrient loading. And so our focus clearly in terms of that issue has to be in the Red River part of the watershed. And there's 135, and people asked us when we did this report, hey, can you point out a couple that we should focus on? And we said, well, no, because then these other, a whole lot of other things get off the hook. And I mean, there's a whole lot of things. There's municipal waste treatment. There's farming practices. There's all the kinds of things we dump into the environment that, are beginning, government regulation and appropriate policies are starting to catch up on that. But generally, people in the watershed still don't understand the full impact of what we're doing in the watershed. And you know what? Lake Winnipeg is, as we say, is our friend of many moods. And you know, it's saying to us, hey, you know what? You folks are stressing me out a little bit. But if you do some things, there's a chance. There's a chance that we can, you know, as good stewards of the environment, bring that natural balance back into play. And so that's what we all have to embrace.
There's no doubt about clean water. The water coming into the sewer plant must go out the same way. 10,000 of thousands and thousands of gallons is to kill dandelions. Make sure that in Winnipeg that you go out, after you see them spray the dandelions, send the kids out and make sure that they run in it and have the kids and have the dogs and cats with them. And then come inside and make sure you got a sore on your foot, because you'll do all the damage to yourself. Can you imagine what you're doing to everybody else?
I think it's wonderful these guys still have a passion for Lake Winnipeg and for all the time that they've been at it. And that gives people like me hope to think, you know, even if you start tomorrow planning and talking about what you can do to help your friend Lake Winnipeg. I believe education and this building is a big part of it, and what Bill is doing with educating people and everybody who walks through that door. They have record, we were just talking earlier, of thousands and thousands of people who walk through the door and listens to Bill's presentation on Lake Winnipeg. We were here this winter with Bill, and we filmed one episode of Ice Vikings right here with the crew on Bill's presentation with Lake Winnipeg, which I'm hoping enters into the show, because the show is worldwide now. And the more people who are educated and the more people who understand that looking in the mirror is that person who's causing the problem on Lake Winnipeg. It's not a person who's living at a cottage or somebody who's living in Winnipeg. Collectively, like Bill says, we're part of the problem. It's just like a virus in the air. It's not seen, so it's not understood. What's happening to Lake Winnipeg when people walk 10 feet away from the lake is they don't see the lake, so it's not understood. But when you have people like me and my father and my sons who've spent decades and decades and decades on the ice and on the water and seeing the changes that are happening, it's not hard to see that you're doing something to your old friend here. And it is complaining, and it is saying, you know what, you guys better do something with what you better change, like he says, you better take those pretty little yellow flowers and make wine out of them instead of spraying shit on them and trying to wonder where all that stuff ends up. If we're going to spend the rest of our time, and I'm going to be at a wonderful age that these respected gentlemen are, I don't want to be standing here talking about how poisoned the water is, or everywhere we go we have to boil water to drink it, and we won't be wearing masks for COVID because we'll be wearing masks for the poisons that are in the air. We need Lake Winnipeg. We are water. Without water, we're nothing. So I'm just going to revel in their passion and try to absorb it.
You know, it's with passion like these gentlemen have, in some small way, the Gimli Yacht Club and the Kiwanis Club of Gimli got together 3 years ago. That was probably over an adult beverage that we got into it, but you know, it didn't take us long to figure out, you know, let's see what we can do as two community service clubs. Get together, work together, not make it a competition. That's what this fundraiser is all about. To build that fund so that we can contribute in some way to educate people, to provide a career path for some of these young folks and that are going through our school system, that are very serious about staying here around the lake and educating themselves and to get involved with the ecosystems that we've experienced, and especially these three gentlemen. See, they're a fountain of information. Get onto our website, support the fish fry, which is done by the Kiwanis Club. We have an online auction where everyone in our committee and others have contributed great prizes and services. Get out there and buy them. And everything that we raise goes to our endowment fund. Don't forget, watch it. Thank you.
Second to that, Paul, with the Kiwanis fish fry, all the fish that's going to be cooked on the day of that event will be fresh. It'll be right from Lake Winnipeg into the hot box at the Kiwanis, where you get deep fry Kiwanis employees, those poor guys. So it's all fresh fish, fresh caught fish, supplied by
Right there.
K&K, Christensen Fish.
Okay, thanks again, and we will see you on a regular basis.
Right on.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thanks especially to bringing along your dad, Robert, and Bill Barlow. The combined efforts of these three gentlemen and their knowledge and experience on the lake for over 120 years, and shows the involvement and the dedication these people have. Summer and winter, all seasons, out there on the lake, conducting their businesses in the commercial fishing industry, and it shows the importance of commercial fishers here on Lake Winnipeg.
Really, really good point, Paul. And I just wanted to let everybody know that it's now about 11 o'clock and we're trying to get on with the rest of the program. So we have between 11 and 3, we have all of our fish fry dinners that the Kiwanis are working away at right now. And there's still some fish dinners that you can book online. And so go ahead and get online and book a dinner and come on down. We're still cooking till 3 o'clock. The auction is open right till 3 o'clock, and merchandise is available. We still have lots of stuff. I think we have lots of hoodies, masks, and t-shirts, so get online and purchase them. You can also make a tax-deductible donation as well. We set up a foundation to really channel all of our resources to causes that we think are beneficial to Lake Winnipeg.
Oh, absolutely. And it shows with this event how different clubs and different community organizations can get together, combine their efforts, as we have with the Gimli Yacht Club and the Kiwanis Club of Gimli, getting together, not competing with each other, but joining forces to make this a successful event. And it shows a message, we believe, that the community at any level can get along and get results for what we are trying to do here with Lake Winnipeg.
That's right, Paul. I just want to say thank you to everybody who has worked on Save the Lake to make such a fantastic event, great day. Especially I want to make sure I say thank you to all the donors who've contributed so much to the auction. I want to say thank you to the Kiwanians and the Gimli Yacht Club members who have donated their time to make this all happen. And especially I want to thank all of you who have donated. We couldn't do this without you, and all of your money is helping to increase the awareness about the lake and help make the lake a better place. So listen, have a great day, and I hope you enjoy your fish fry dinner, and we'll see you next year.